Welcome to the I Love Mondays podcast week in review.
I love Mondays with Mike Heller.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed bunker in the Badger State. This is I Love Mondays with Mike Heller. Powered by determination and a little bit of duct tape. Here's your host, Mike Heller.
It's hosted by this guy. I mean, the true post game for the Badger or for the Packers radio network is all about this guy, Drew Olson and Billy Schmid. Hey, Drew, I'm back on the team, at least in a small way, back on the team.
I was so thrilled at that news, Mike. The fact that you were back in the mix and that I don't have to fill in for you.
Yeah, right.
I don't have to get there that early now.
Yeah,
those were long days last year when I was doing the pregame and the postgame. And now I hope, and it would only be kismet if James Jones refers to you as Drew at least 5 or 6 times. Over the course of
it will happen. Did he get you a couple of mics last year?
Oh, he called a couple of them. The first part of the season was okay, but as the season went on, you would think he would get more in tune.
Yeah,
I became Mike, and Dennis and I would laugh.
Yeah,
James.
Yeah, very
good to have you back, though. I'm very excited that you're back.
Shoot, dude, I'm when Doug Russell gave me a call last week, I was. I should have said yes in the moment, but I wanted to make sure I did my due diligence and talked to the boss here at home and made sure that we're all good. But yeah, and you know it from having done it for a long time and covering the Brewers beat. It's a get to concept to call Lambeau Field your office on home Sundays and to go up there and spend the day and talk to our listeners. I mean, it's a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty cool gig.
Yeah, and especially now you're going to see the revamped press area, like the downstairs, the media auditorium, and like our new digs and stuff.
Yeah,
I think you'll still be at the Miller Lite End Zone Bar, hanging with the people and sitting in the fishbowl, which is always fun. But yeah, it is a treat. It's cool to be at the center of the sports universe in Wisconsin, and you get to do the Tom Oates doubleheader every weekend. Like get to go Badgers and Packers every weekend. That's incredible.
Yeah, the only time that might be of some issue is we play at Pasadena against UCLA in late October, and I think the Packer game that next night is a Sunday night game, so I have time to get back and no issue, right? I don't know how Oatesy did that for all those times, and Oatesy was doing it either by car or commercial. At least when I'm with the Badgers, we go from the locker room to the airport on a charter, and we're back. And Oatesy be going, to wherever, driving the car back from Champaign or from Columbus, going to Columbus International and trying to fly commercial back to get to wherever the Packers were. So anyway, very excited about all of that. What have you learned and gleaned? I know Billy's back up at training camp practice today for the Packers, who will play an exhibition game on Thursday. Well, what has been? Is there a go-to story so far? Is there something that is all eyes on so far for you?
It being the Packers, of course, it's Trace Mack, right? We have to obsess about the kicker. My saying on this is, my kickers don't matter until they matter, and it mattered last year. They lost a playoff game and they didn't execute in that portion of it. So obviously was watching that, but to me, Brandon Cisse, revelation. The kid, very athletic. And how much can you tell in one practice that I've seen, live? But he draws your eye. He's very smooth, very fluid, taller than I thought, physical. And I saw him run on one sequence, kind of like a dry drill, running stride for stride with Christian Watson. I'm like, if you can keep up with that dude, there aren't many guys faster than Christian Watson in the NFL, so he should be okay.
Yeah. Just to clarify, so my captain, Kari, sent a message to the show asking, am I the boss or the captain? And yes. But I mean, I refer to her as the captain. Yes, Kari, you're still the captain, not the boss. We boss things around here. So when we're talking about that, Micah Parsons is obviously one of the other go-to stories in Packers camp, and he made it pretty clear last week that his goal is to return for the Dallas Cowboys game at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. And I thought that might be, he's a freak, right? I think that certain guys certain players, certain athletes that we've covered are different, and I think he's one of those. I thought he might want to even be sooner, and I thought the Packers might want it to be later. Do you think this is a compromise, or what's your view on Micah Parsons' return?
Yeah, it seems ambitious on his part, but that's not surprising, right? Because he is, an athletic freak. But I tend to I've now set my barometer later. I think it might even be later than that, because just be pleasantly surprised if he comes back faster. And everybody is different, no matter how athletic you are. Like, who works harder than Tucker Kraft, right? And he's back. But we've seen guys that were hardworking guys that didn't come back as fast. Christian Watson did. Tucker did, but others don't. Bigger guys, heavier guys might have more issue. And I think a lot of times the team has to protect the player from themselves, because if they say, all right, we need you to do 8 of these exercises, the guys are like, well, if 8's good, I'll do 30. Right. And it's not always prescribe, stick with the plan and trust the process. So there's that internal push-pull. He's so important to them, and everything they do, it's almost about just tie a rope and hang on and survive till he gets there. Because adding him is going to be such an impact. Tell me anybody at the deadline or at midseason is going to make an acquisition or have a player return who is that impactful.
There is a trade deadline in the NFL. We usually don't pay much attention to it because very little happens compared to some of the other sports, that certainly in baseball and basketball. But yeah, that acquisition in the season is going to be tremendous whenever it happens. But somewhat like the Brewers, and it's not apples to apples, but the Brewers did it without Woody earlier and without Vaughn early and without Churio early, and they were 16-13. So they did a little bit better than treading water. And some would look at the Packers and say, okay, if indeed he returns in game number 6, can you still be 3-2, right? Can you, I mean, that's part of what they're going to have to do, is find a way, because nobody fears Lucas Van Ness right now. I mean, you don't have the edge. Last year, you still would have had Rashawn Gary, and there was some potential certainly there. But it's different on this defense. And Gannon, the new DC, Jonathan Gannon, he's going to have his work cut out for him to figure out how they manage things without a difference maker on paper playing one of the edges.
I think Gannon's going to be that's the thing. And for him, it's like, okay, we're installing this new system, got these new guys, and he's got to meet his personnel. And you can get an idea from film, but when you get in the meeting rooms and when you get in the flow of, practicing with your guys, I think he'll have a better understanding. But then adding Parsons is going to change things. It's going to be a great toy for him. But what they lay in the, they got almost half the season to start with. Yeah. Right. What they lay in, I think you're going to see him get creative. I think you'll see more Edgerrin Cooper blitzes and more Evan Williams type, blitzes off the safeties and corners, perhaps. I mean, even Cisse or Keyshawn Nixon, perhaps. I think he's going to send some more guys that way. The Packers have been reluctant to do those kind of things because, let's face it, they're thin at corner, and you don't want to expose those guys. But I think that's the trade-off, and I think that we'll see that early in the season.
Drew, let me go back to the end of last season and get your sense on Matt LaFleur, the decision to keep Matt and Goody around after the 5 straight losses and the playoff loss when you're up 21-3 in Chicago. And then maybe how that translates to now, because some people see, well, he signed, the new 3-year deal. And so that means he's safe. And I don't necessarily see it that way. I'm curious as to your view of Matt LaFleur into season 8, in which he's coaching against history. Only John Madden has gone into after 7 years and then taken his team to a Super Bowl for the first time and won one. So your view on Matt LaFleur, even with the extension?
Yeah, even with the extension, it's monopoly money. Doesn't count against the cap. They could make a change after this year. He is still kind of coaching for his job. Maybe we overstated that last year, but I think this year, especially, it comes into, as long as Jordan Love is healthy and you get all the caveats, right? The division's gotten better. They haven't won the division in a while. That remains goal 1. But I mean, to me, he's a good coach. I'm glad that they went with continuity, because that's kind of the Packers' way. I know a lot of people wanted him gone last year. Be careful what you wish for. The team that in Madison, that Paul Chris, Luke Fickell, that transition didn't go the way expected either. So it's like, to me, I think the entire view of the Packers, and nationally and maybe even locally, is skewed by the way last season finished. because you forget where they were at halftime in Denver.
Right.
When Parsons got hurt and Watson got carted off that day as well. And they were ahead in that game. And had they won that game, what would they have been? 10-3-1?
Yeah, they were 9-3-1 in Denver, leading
10,
by,
so they'd have been 10-3-1, having just beaten the presumptive number one seed on the AF side, and they would have been moving, charging towards the number one seed in the NFC. And the wheels came off. And again, there's no, I mean, that the 21-3 lead in that game is like, to me, that was like a car accident, right? It's just like, ugh. Right. And it's just one of those days. And I think that has tamped down expectations, and people don't realize them. When you're at camp and you see all these athletic guys running around the field, like, these guys are pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're still pretty good. They still have a lot of talent in a lot of places. And I think they have a staff that knows what they're doing. And we don't know if Gannon's going to be an upgrade from Halfley. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. We'll see. I think he's got a pretty good pedigree and he got a good chance. He did pretty well in Philly in that role. So I'm more optimistic about it than most, I think. And I think everything's tamped down because of the way they finished last year. That just, it skewed everything.
Yeah. And there are so many curiosities, and one of them is in the division. I mean, I think people forget that all four teams in the division finished above 500. And the only reason the Lions and the Vikings didn't make the postseason is the Packers had a tie. They were 9-7-1. The other two were 9-8. This division is a mystery, because I think if they got good quarterback play in Minnesota, they could finish atop the division. That's a big if with Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. The Bears are, for many people, the presumptive favorite. For many people, Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the division, and Detroit is a couple of years removed from being, you know, one of the great teams, the best record in the NFC, even though they bowed out right away in the playoffs. This division is it's a crapshoot as far as how you're going to handicap it.
Yeah, the Packers right out of the chute get Minnesota, right? And we'll see what that looks like. And yeah, I agree with you. The Bears, are they the team to beat? To me, it's like, trying to think of was it the Nationals last year? Who was it? There was a team that won a lot of, like, they've won a lot of close games last year, and regression to the mean is a thing, man.
Yeah.
They got every break. They won a lot of games in the fourth quarter, and people can say that's great, good. Well, good teams are ahead by a lot in the fourth quarter, right? They don't have to squeak those games out. So I worry about, like, Detroit, because their sense of urgency, like, their window is closing.
Yes.
Packers is still pretty much open. Bears are just wide open, right? And Minnesota's kind of like in between. But Detroit has urgency right now, and it's like win now, like yesterday, like and they're coming back. They have, like, don't they have the last place schedule? The Lions,
yeah.
It's, you know, so all those little things are going to play in. And as we've learned, and Wayne Larrabee tells us all the time, not who you play, it's when you play them, right? Because from teams that can look spectacular in September and terrible in November, and vice versa. So there's that element. You're right. This division is a total crapshoot, and winning that has to be job one. And the Packers have gotten away from that, and they need to get back to winning the damn division.
Drew, I'm going to shift over to the Brewers now. I want to get to Don Nelson before we finish too, by the way, because you're front and center in Nelly's run as well. And I want to get to that, as we lost him yesterday. But let me touch on the Brewers in part because I've always thought you're pretty good at having your finger on the pulse of not being fooled by certain things. Teams' close wins and things like that. This Brewers team has the best record in all of Major League Baseball. They've been there now for a while. They've led the division for a really long time. And in fact, I wanted to point out this out of the gate today, that the Brewers, when back on May 31st, I wanted to just kind of point out what it is that they've done since then, because it's impressive, and it's got to be frustrating as hell to a team like the Cubs, because the Brewers have actually been better than the Cubs since May 31st, and the Cubs have been really good, like the third best record in baseball, and they've lost a half a game in the standings over the 2.5 months. So the Brewers have been really good. I don't want to take anything away from that. But what is it that worries you about this team as it comes to predicting October success?
Well, lately, the injuries, right? Yeah. I mean, suddenly Ortiz, Cooper, Pratt, you don't expect a young guy to have a hamstring pull. That's an old guy injury for you and me at fantasy camp.
Yes.
So that is a concern. but then those things that they happen, it's part of it. You have to keep rolling. And we saw Churio go cold. He's suddenly hot, right? And William Contreras isn't hitting right now. Christian Yelich, obviously well documented his struggles. The fact that they don't hit home runs, that concerns me in the playoffs. Because home runs play in the playoffs. It's hard to have one of these Brewer rallies where you have a walk, a hit by pitch, a stolen base, and a broken bat hit, and you score 3. To have the run differential and to win the games they have without hitting a lot of home runs is remarkable. Is it sustainable when you're facing top flight pitching? We'll see. This week's a good barometer, going to San Diego and LA and playing in playoff atmospheres. I'm a little bummed that Cooper Pratt doesn't get to experience that, because when you get to the playoffs, that's what the juice is going to be like. That's why I warn people, don't worry about strength of schedule and don't take anybody lightly this time of year. But when the Rockies came in, I was telling people, watch out for them. And they gave the Brewers a pretty good series. They capitulated eventually, but for them, it was right before the trade deadline. A lot of those guys wanted out. They thought they were kind of auditioning to get to their next spot. They're playing for next year's jobs. They're playing in a stadium that's full and has energy, whereas at home they don't get that. So that turns it up. So everything gets magnified. To me, looking at the Brewers writ large is, they went and got Dustin May, a move I like. I'm sure we've all talked about it. Would have been great to have Skubal. Didn't work out. I don't think there was any real malpractice on the Brewers' part. It just didn't work out. One of those things. But the young kids, especially the young pitchers, like hit a kind of a rookie wall. And these next 2 months, like, we're all focused on October, but there's a lot of baseball left. You got 45 games left to grind through to get there. You got to hold off the Cubs. You want one of those first 2 spots, because you win the series, you don't have to play. Right? You don't get to spray champagne and take a team picture on the mound, but you win that series if you don't have to play it. And that's imperative for them. And hell, right now, the Dodgers have slipped out of that, and the Braves would be one of the teams with a bye, and the Dodgers would have to play somebody, and that's put them at risk. Let them chew up their pitching. Let them have the chance of losing, because it could happen, as unfathomable as that seems. So to me, it's a dual thing. It's the offense and the lack of power, for lack of a better word, consistency. It just seems like every night they're just grinding. It takes an act of Congress for them to score like 3 runs in an inning. They just have to grind so hard. They're good at it, but I don't know if that's sustainable. So that, coupled with the pitching, the starting pitching, makes me nervous for these last 47 games.
Yeah, and I marvel at what they've done in July and August so far, because they've done it. Now, Churio just got hot again, and I mean, this is the Churio you hope for. But they've gotten very little from Contreras, who now seems just as lost at the plate as Yelich. In fact, if you compare numbers from July 1 to now, we're all fixated on Yelich. Contreras' numbers are worse.
Yes.
So you get Contreras and Yelich, who is your everyday DH, not producing. For them to have won the way they have in July and August,
it's crazy.
2 things. One, the pitching has been phenomenal, both from the starting pitching to the bullpen. And that 3-headed bullpen core, maybe Sensatella is part of that now, but that 3 deal from Uribe to Ashby to McGill, it's extraordinary what they've done.
It is. You don't want those guys to get too worn out too, because they have to pitch a lot, because they're always in close games. But the offense, though, you're right about Contreras. Great leadership by Yelich to have everybody focus on him, and no one observed that Contreras has been horrible. He had a bad night Friday calling pitches, and that's his calling card, and he's starting to slip in that regard. I didn't think he was that great in the pitch selection on Friday night. Was that Drowan's start?
Yeah.
So he's got to play better. He has to step up, but there's plenty of time. And part of me sees it now, and it's like, all right, get your slumps out of the way now, right? Because all that really matters is October. I'm granted, I just said these 45 games matter, but they've weathered the storm. Yeah. And Churio getting hot, he can carry an entire team.
Sure can,
the way Bowers has, and the way Vaughn has at stretches. He hasn't been the same either, but Vaughn can carry you for stretches. So they've just ham and egged it, man. It's incredible to watch, and you just hope it can continue. But I worry about on the big stage in the playoffs. Can they do it? Yes. Here's the thing about the Brewers. I could see them beating any team in front of them in the playoffs. Yeah. I could also see them losing to any team in the playoffs.
Which is why that first round bye is so imperative.
Yep.
Because you get in a wild card. You want to talk about throwing away a great season. A lot of the fan base, if they ended up losing that top 2 bye and had to play in the first round, and they got beat. The whole season for many people
Season
gets wiped
shot.
out.
Yep,
right?
exactly.
97 games.
And we are so fixated because of last year and because of the money and Scooble on the Dodgers. You forget the Braves and Phillies are good too. If you face them, like, who's going to beat, Miz and Dustin May? Well, those guys in Philly would like a word, they got Wheeler and Rodriguez. They're pretty good too.
No question. Yeah. From all those years that you were in the clubhouse on a regular basis, I think you understand the nuances that are going on the Yelich situation. He's your primary DH. He's your everyday DH, and he's not delivered like DHs are supposed to. But there's a lot of nuance there as a team leader, as a veteran, as somebody that has a voice in the clubhouse, even if he doesn't use it all the time. How do you think the Brewers are going to massage the nuances on having to make a decision probably in September on how they're going to manage Yelich if he doesn't find answers at the plate?
I still think they're going to run him out there no matter what. They're just going to roll with him because he can one swing, right? Yeah. And if he can find it, and you have to keep running him out there now. And now I heard a lot of people were saying, you got to drop him in the order. Joey Ortiz batted 9th last year, and he came up with the bases loaded every night.
Yeah.
With 2 outs and the bases loaded. The lineup's going to find you. So that to me is not that big a deal. Sure, drop him down. You think that's going to make him like relax and take pressure off him? I don't think so.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be maybe one night, Murph, this would sound antithetical, put him in left field. Let Churio be the DH and let Christian Yelich have a couple innings and have him, get back in the flow of playing in the field again and not obsess about at bats for a half hour or 40 minutes in between. That might be just a flow. I mean, especially guy grew up in LA. He's going to be staying at his house and, play him at Dodger Stadium in left field, like maybe conjure some of that magic from 18, 19. That's my prescription. I give him one of those days to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like you almost have to go down with the ship because when other managers, even if Christian Yelich is struggling like right now, I know that when they're looking at who's coming up, they're like, oh yeah, we got to deal with Yelich. Yeah. And they're thinking about strategically, the wheels are turning. Do we bring in a lefty? What are we doing? So he does change it that way. And it's been brutal to watch, but I think you're pot committed with him. You got to keep rolling. I keep playing him.
Let me ask you about Don Nelson. I was also doing, media here, but I wasn't in Milwaukee on a daily basis. He's still, I think, perhaps my favorite all-time Milwaukee Bucks coach from the tractor tour to the fish ties to, everything that he was. And you were in that realm. Your recollection of Don Nelson and what he meant. They didn't win a title here, but Nelly, one of the more popular coaches I think this state has ever seen.
I agree. It was like he was made to be a Milwaukee guy. Raised in Rock Island, Illinois, went to Iowa, hit his bones in Boston, came here, just soaked up. He raised his family here. They lived in Brookfield. I wasn't in the day-to-day with him because I was just coming up at that point and doing high school stuff, and he was just moving on. I was like when Del Harris and Dunleavy rolled in, that's when I was over there more. But the people that I worked with that had to deal with him just loved him and just how open he was and just, second guess away, a little bit like Phil Garner in that regard. Yeah. His community stuff, the raising money for farmers and always being the fact that you could go walk into Goolsby's in an afternoon and run into the Bucks coach and have 4 or 5 beers with him and hang out. That's the kind of guy he was. He was reminded me, they were different personalities, but like Rick Majerus, just gregarious and you met him, him 5 minutes, you feel like you've known him your whole life. One of those kind of guys. Yeah. And the story is legendary of him hitting bars around town and buying drinks for people. And the Goolsby's was the spot back then when they played at the arena. And he's just legendary. Our buddy CP, Chris Peppas, who managed Goolsby's for many years, has many stories about late nights with Nelly and just the whole vibe of it. And we were talking about a little bit on the show because Billy and Armin, it was before their time.
Sure.
But Armin's such a nerd. He goes back and watches the films of that era. Yeah. And those playoff losses, you remember it, and I do too. It was so gutting every year that they would win 55 games and they'd have 11,052 every night. And that place was rocking. and it was a home court advantage, and I got the court behind me right here.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And then they get to the playoffs and either lose to Boston or Philly.
Yeah.
And it was like, but it was never, well, Nelly's got to go, or they got to fire the GM. It was never that. It was like, oh, well, get him next year. It was like this innocent more time, it wasn't, no one thought it was Nelly's fault. It was just, you're up against a buzzsaw and they just couldn't get through. They couldn't break through. They never got the breaks. It just never happened. And that's my formative years as a sports fan, is that the one team when we were growing up that was consistently good never won on the big stage, never got through.
And that whole farm tour, the tractor tour, was extraordinarily brilliant. It's at the same time essentially that John Mellencamp and so many rock stars are doing farm tours and Farm Aid, and Nelly jumped right into it. His tractor tours, you want to talk about being beloved in the state. I mean, those moments, and I have no idea if that was his idea or some intern in the promotions department said, "What if we put the head coach on a tractor and take him out to the farm?"
He grew up and he went to a school, like a 1-room 6-student schoolhouse, and he grew up in that mix. So that was legit. That was coming from a place. Now, was it managed? Sure.
Yeah.
But also he leaned into it, right? So you're right. Like when it comes to Wisconsin coaches, Al McGuire, like Harvey Keene, Harvey was born here, but Al and Don Nelson might as well have been, because of the way they absorbed themselves and became part of the community. So they're just special, and Nelly was always looked out for the Milwaukee media, and always, even when he came back with Dallas or Golden State, just always enjoyed coming back. And his son ended up being a really good, I remember his son was my basketball camp counselor when he was at Brook Central. And then his son ended up being a GM and stuff. So this, just a terrific story. And you're right, the Willie Nelson thing. And then they ended up being farmers together, farming weed in Hawaii.
Yeah, they did.
So
that's how the story ends.
And the poker games, like the tributes from the poker games with Woody Harrelson and Bill Maher and Woody Harrelson and Willie Nelson, all in Hawaii at Nelly's place.
Sure, Nelly kind of went out the way he wanted to go out. They living those last years the way he wanted to. Growing his own marijuana and being where he wanted to be.
He was where he wanted to be, his own boss, and just like loving it. Yeah.
Let me finish on what we have coming up. I mean, this run, I get how important this 7 days is to the Brewers. But we're within shouting distance of August 31st, in which sports fans in Wisconsin are going to get treated, because you get the Brewers and the Cubs playing 7 games against one another over 10 days, 4 of them in Chicago, then an in-between series, then 3 in Milwaukee. At the same time, the Badgers will open at Lambeau Field on that Sunday night at Lambeau against Notre Dame. And then 1 week later, the Packers season opens. Talk about the fever that is that sports run here for fans of all different ilks. It's pretty good.
Yeah. It's going to be delicious. No question about it. Like, we've had runs like this before. I remember being at a Brewers Diamondbacks playoff game in the afternoon, and then going to a Badgers Nebraska game at Camp Randall at night, like that kind of doubleheader. Those are the kind of things we're going to have. And having, a high leverage Brewers game on while you're at Lambeau is pretty cool. We had some night games where their Brewers were playing at that point, and even in the preseason. So it is going to be a great convergence there. And the Brewers, there's no reason to think they won't be playing into October. How deep?
Right.
We'll see. Right. Yeah. But that's going to be when I cover them for most of the years, they were eliminated by the time the first cream puff was sold at State Fair.
Yeah.
And now they're still, they're now the complete opposite. Now you're worried about whether they're going to have the best record in ball.
And that thing that Atanasio and Matt Arnold and crew have put together, and I include Pat Murphy in that. What they have done is the envy of about 2/3 of the league, because they have done it in a way that they have. Future success is not guaranteed, but they're certainly set up incredibly well to continue this run. And it just is such a rare bird in that sport to be able to maintain highly competitive roster year after year after year and be right about 20th, right? I mean, they're almost always 20th in payroll, right? And they're smallish market. To do that consistently, and I know fans want the holy grail, but to do what they've done is impressive in so many ways.
Yeah, it's a word you hate to use because it's overused, but culture is what the Brewers have cultivated. And when guys come in, they immediately, Dustin May, you feel it. Like some of it is intangible, but some of it's intentional. Like I was talking to Tim Dillard about this and the way the Brewers play and the way Murph brings it up, and Murph is going out of his way to laud Christian Yelich these days, right? And talk about what he means. And he had the fans cheer for him, and then Yelich delivered a couple of hits, right? It's like, Murph,
they're
let's
still
do that
cheering
more
for him.
often.
He hasn't delivered much since, but
Yelich went in yesterday as a pinch runner. Yeah. And Murph's like, two-time MVP. A lot of managers, I'm not going to ask him to do that.
Yeah.
He volunteered, probably had spikes on, begging to go run, right? And he helps set a lot of that culture because he's the veteran guy and he's been through it, and he means so much to the vibe there because he's a selfless kind of guy. You're right, not necessarily a rah-rah guy, but they feed off of that. And it's the little things that the Brewers do. Like when I talked to Dilly about not just on the field and the way they pitch and the way they defense and what Terang and all those guys, stuff that people don't notice. Like watch the national anthem at a Brewers game.
Yeah.
Other teams, guys are stretching. They got 4 guys on the line. The entire squad lined up, right? And then you think, oh, big deal. No, stuff like that, it sets a tone. Like when they have recognize the veteran after the second inning or whatever, the guys in the bullpen standing and applauding.
Right.
You don't see that everywhere.
Yeah.
They don't, those little things that they instill, they carry into the big things, right? So those are the things like you watch that and it's like, dang, they're in some ways they just get it. Now, is it who they are because it's who they have to be, or is it because Murph and Matt Arnold, they do they screen potential acquisitions on what kind of guy are they? They do their due diligence in that front, right?
Yeah.
And they bring in guys, but once guys get here, they're like, oh, okay, this is how we're going to do it, right? And it's not we had another call from the bunt police yesterday because they walked Mitchell in his first and second, and Contreras is up.
Yeah.
And I don't think he has a sacrifice bunt in his career. And people are like, why didn't he bunt the guy to third? He just struck out on 3 pitches. And, so maybe they're not playing the game the right way for many, but for me, it's like they do the little things the right way. And then that's the big picture. And that's the way I sum up Brewers culture. It's just like they play the right way. Right.
Yeah. And almost anytime you talk about culture, it starts from the top. Culture cannot be instituted by an assistant coach. It begins at the top. Atanasio does that. Matt Arnold does that. The scouting department does that. And then Pat and all of his staff, it's through and through. Hey, Drew, I'm really excited to be back on a team Packers radio network. You mentioned it earlier, but it saves you because last year when we made the change, you were the post game host, still are, but then you had to jump in to do the pregame. Well, that changed your day by a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be back in the role and let you live a normal life on Sundays. And
I look forward to listening to you crack the microphone when Billy and I are just about getting the Lambo. We'll hear you talk.
And you guys
nice schedule change.
How late it is, you hear my voice.
That's right. We got the pool.
Show. It's going to be different this year. We're going to fix that.
That's right.
Hey, Drew, thank you. I appreciate you being in with me. Thanks for helping me
share
the news. And I'll see you.
We weren't teammates after a certain time, but we were always teammates. Really, we're in this. We're old guys. We've been doing this a long time, and it's good to have you back formally on the team.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. I don't know who my special guest is because I wasn't told of this until just prior to the show. So there she is. She is my special guest. That is the captain. Kari is in on the show. And I have to tell
Good
you,
morning.
I love your hair.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just at the salon yesterday.
Yeah.
Spa by Autumn Organics in Sun Prairie. Love her.
They're not a sponsor of I Love Mondays.
I know. But I was there for 6 hours, and
Yeah,
what I
you
love
were.
about her is that she allows me to go with it. And then she's like, "Yep, we can do that. We can do that." It's so fun. It was a great afternoon.
Okay,
So now I'm reaping the benefits.
Yeah, you have requested this guest appearance on
Yeah.
the show. Pete Doherty, the Green Bay Press Gazette, PackersNews.com, will join me at about 10:20. But
okay, this won't take long.
Okay.
Of course, we had this huge year of weddings and babies and all that kind of stuff. So I was finally able to make it to the post office for our stacks of fan mail. And like letter after letter after letter
Is that right?
was this
Okay.
was this common theme. And then one of those letters actually included something that's been missing from your show. So one of your me? No.
Yeah.
One of your listeners have dropped off / mailed / given me a red card and a yellow card.
Yeah.
Because you have been needing them and wanting them.
Yeah.
And so your fans were a little fed up. So they just said, well, fine, we'll just get the yellow card and the red card for Mike to use.
Yeah.
And then it's a 3-pack. So I'm not sure, like, if Treadmill needs a stack, if Courtney needs a stack.
No.
But we have, from one of your listeners anonymously, did not write down his or her name. We have a 3-pack now of red cards and yellow cards. I'll drop them off in the studio before I head out of town today. And you can start using them today.
That's awesome. I've been talking about doing that and it's not a hard thing to do, but I've never done it. So somebody took the bull by the horns and got it done.
Yep.
Look at that.
Yep. Yeah. And hopefully, I mean, thank you everyone for all of the fan mail. It's been so much fun reading it all.
Is that right?
I hope that we can sit down and reply to each one of them.
Okay, good. Yeah, that'll take the better part of 2 or 3 minutes probably.
Yeah.
to respond.
We just set it aside in our calendar. But I was going to start out by giving you a yellow card, but I don't know for not getting a yellow and green card.
Oh, well, yeah, the green card is the ability to work in a foreign country. I don't think I need a green card unless you haven't told me that we're relocating to a foreign land. You did.
Did I say green?
You did.
I meant a yellow card.
Yeah. You can give me a yellow card. Had I not taken that tank out of the back of the vehicle right now, you could have given me a yellow card, but that was done. In fact, that could have been a red card.
Yeah, you did do that. You did get that done. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Then I'm set to leave.
All right, and you get to go say hi to Morgan and little baby Annie today.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
You did well. I didn't know what it was about, but I appreciate it.
What were your guesses? What were your guesses?
I had no guesses. I had no guesses. 0. By the way, you make the show better. So thanks for being part of what we do.
Yes, of course.
Good job.
All right. Bye.
I'll see you. I love you.
I love you too.
Plenty of work to get in with here. I want to welcome in my buddy Pete Doherty, who now joins me on the program. Pete from home before. Are you going to Pittsburgh tomorrow?
I am not.
Okay.
No, I don't go to the preseason. I don't go to the preseason road games for several reasons. We only send 2 people to those usually, and I do the day after the game review with Eric Baranchek, where we do the tape review, and it's so much easier to do that when you're not on. You're not flying. So no, I'm home and relaxed today.
That's good. I appreciate you jumping in here to spend a little time, because now we know a little bit more. I'm curious as to there's never been a right or a wrong answer about playing starters in preseason games, and I think Matt LaFleur has vacillated on this from year to year and time to time. We all remember what happened to Jordy Nelson in the preseason game that soured a lot of people's opinions on playing starters. There are teams in the NFL that play starters in exhibition games or in a game and succeed and have a good regular season. There are teams that do it and don't reap a benefit. Where do you come down on this, and what do you think Matt does tomorrow night?
Well, that depends on the year. As far as where I come down on this, it depends on the year, the month, the day,
right,
the time of day. I just, you hit it right on the nose that it's there's no right or wrong.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't claim to have any greater wisdom on this than anybody else. For the longest time, I was like, don't play them.
Yeah.
Now, LaFleur says there's data that the NFL has that if you have a joint practice and a player plays at least 30 snaps or about 30 snaps in the preseason, they're 300% less likely to get injured.
Is that right?
During the regular season. Now,
Wow.
that includes a big, pool of players.
Right.
But there does seem to be a statistically significant difference. But a lot of times I think back to Brett Favre hitting his thumb down at Camp Randall in '99.
Yeah.
He didn't miss any games, but it sure affected his throwing all season. Was one of the reasons why they were 9-7.
Right.
So I don't have any more wisdom than anybody else. Hearing LaFleur state those numbers would make me inclined to play guys a little bit because they are going to have a joint practice. So that might make me inclined to play guys, but it's a risk.
Yeah. I'm curious. I think we're going to see the offense. I think we're going to see starters tomorrow night. I think tomorrow's the only time that those significant starters might be on the field in a preseason game. But I could be all wrong on that. They haven't revealed. I don't think Aaron Rodgers plays on the other side, but Mike McCarthy is on the other sideline. And I'm curious because I don't think you and I visited on that decision in Pittsburgh to move on from Mike Tomlin and to Mike McCarthy, who is a native of the area. Like, it's a natural in that regard. What are your feels on Mike McCarthy returning to the sideline with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense with the Pittsburgh part, but in its biggest way, it's a very unlike Pittsburgh Steelers move, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they hired why am I blanking on their
Chuck Noll,
good Lord.
Bill Cowher, right? I mean, it's really been Noll, Cowher, and Tomlin.
And they hired all of them
Forever.
in their 30s. I think in their 30s or real. Yeah. I'm pretty sure all were hired in their late 30s, and they stuck with them through thick and thin. And they had 3 coaches from 1969 until last year, which is, the Packers are a very stable organization. Well, that takes it up another big notch there.
Did. Yeah.
So I thought it was a huge surprise in that way. Because, he's probably only going to, he's my age, 60. I think he's 64, maybe 65. I mean, how much longer is he going to, going to want to coach?
I mean, I would think 20 years. That's how long you're going to keep doing this. Another 20 years. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yes.
Let me take you to the offensive line. Zach Bako Bawali. I think I have that right. Am I close?
Yeah, I think
you get
that's
to
right.
write it. You don't have to say it. Yeah. I think he's one of maybe the most important piece up front on that offensive line, to see him return to being fully healthy and active and without restriction. And I don't know, maybe you do. Do we have an answer to that? Is there a comfort level about his health?
I think they feel good about it.
Okay.
So for the first week, he just did individual drills. And then this week, he would take, for every team drill, he would take the first, I think it's 2 snaps, maybe 3. And there's usually, anywhere from 6 to maybe 10 or 11 reps, where they do with the ones and then they move on to the 2s. So he'd take the first 2 or 3, and then and then he wouldn't take any more for that period. And so I really don't know how he's playing. There's there's 22 guys in the field, and you can only watch 1 or 2 things on each play. But he is their best lineman for sure. And having him back is really important. It was a partial tear of the patellar tendon, not a full tear. He said a full tear would have been a year recovery.
Yeah.
But he is their most talented guy. I mean, Morgan, in a sense, is their most important because we don't know if he's going to be good enough or not. Whereas with Zach Bacco Boelli, they know he's their best guy. He's a very talented guy, and he's their best guy.
I think of this sometimes in baseball terms. The Brewers haven't had a steady third baseman since Aramis Ramirez or a steady first baseman since Prince Fielder. And I think a left tackle, before the Bakhtiari injury, that position was locked down and awesome. And since then, it has been less than that. And it's such a critical position and on the offensive line. Almost always your best offensive lineman is there. In Green Bay, I think it's different because Bacca Boelli at the right tackle, I think, is your best offensive lineman. But to that point, Jordan Morgan has to be good, and I don't know if he'll be an upgrade from Walker. And is there a sense to that, or is it one of the great unknowns up front?
I think it's highly, highly likely he'll be an upgrade from Walker. But with the way Walker finished last year, that's a pretty low bar. That doesn't necessarily mean good enough. And I'm not sure how he's doing. There'll be plenty of stretches where you don't notice him, which is a good thing. But then all of a sudden, Lucas Van Ness will get a sack, and you look, oh yeah, it looks like Morgan was blocking him there. So I'm still not sure if he's good enough. I suspect, it's going to be a slower process. I don't think he's going to come out of the gates really good. There's going to be some ups and downs that they're going to have to weather. And I guess what matters most is if he's a noticeably better player in December than he is in September.
Yeah. You bring up Lucas Van Ness. So a year ago when Micah goes down in Denver, you still had Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness, and you were wondering, okay, who's going to step up? I don't know that, Gary was always a step away from making plays. And I'm wondering, and we've talked about this in the past already, but I'm going to rekindle it a little bit. You've got to get through 5, maybe 6 weeks. I know Micah wants to return for the game against Dallas, which is game 6. On that defensive line and with edge pressure and with Jonathan Gannon and pressure from the secondary in the linebacker position, obviously all of those things, it's up to Gannon and the players to find a way to get pressure because that's one of the keys in this league, right, is to hurry quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be up to Gannon. They have blitzed a lot in camp. I'm sure everybody listening who reads up on this stuff has seen that. They have blitzed a lot. Now, there are times where teams do that in camp, and then when the season comes around, they don't do it as much, or it's just purely a week-by-week thing. But I think he's going to have to send people. I mean, I still think Adrian Cooper might be is probably his most talented pass rusher.
Sure.
But it's hard to put up big numbers as an off-ball linebacker. But I think they're going to send him a lot. The corner blitzes have been off the chart. I mean, they're sending corners a lot. So I think he's probably going to have to do that in the regular season. I think Van Ness will be an improved player and he's healthy. I'm just not sure he's going to be a 9 or 10 sack guy. I would, if I had to bet, I would bet, under, I'd take the under on that for sure. But like with all these things, we'll see come, September when they're playing in the real games. I can't, Van Ness got off to a pretty good start in training camp. Haven't noticed him as much in the past, past few days.
Brandon Cisse he's going to get a lot of attention because he's the most highly touted of the new secondary players, obviously coming over in the draft. What have your impressions been of him, and can you learn enough about that? They do a lot of one-on-ones, and that's where you see the athleticism. Games, real games are different. What have you seen from him?
It looks, pretty decent. I mean, guys are catching, out patterns on him and stuff like that, but they do that literally every, corner in the league.
Yeah.
He had a really nice play the other day where they threw a deep out to Watson. He was right on Watson's hip and he knocked the ball down. He's their most talented guy. You can see that no matter what. You can see he's their most talented guy. Of the 4 guys going for the job, he's the one I'm pretty sure is going to be a starter. It'll probably be Nixon on the other side, but it could be St. Just too, or Valentine. Valentine missing a week. That didn't help him at all. He missed a week with a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
But I think Cisse is pretty close to a lock for being a starter.
Talking to Pete Doherty, let me step away from the game a little bit and talk about, I don't know if the media get together and the appearance by Goody and LaFleur is like Fight Club, that you can't talk about it, or if you're allowed to speak on it. When did that start happening? I know it's been put together by Corey and Aaron at Cheesehead TV, unless I have that part wrong. Fill us in on how that works, how long it's been going on, and what it is.
I'm not sure how long he's been doing this. I think it's got to be, 6 or 7 years at least. Yeah. LaFleur came last year, which was, I didn't even know, that he was coming. LaFleur came last year. Nobody came last night. That was a one-off, I think, that LaFleur just showed up. But yeah, he just has it for, people who work on the beat. Corey's got a house right across from Lambeau. He's got a great setup, with the bar and, great, speakers. And it's a really neat room he's got there. So we just sit in there and tell stories and talk and have some fun. And, but no luminaries from the Packers showed up last night.
And when LaFleur came, did he just kind of shoot the bull with you guys and have a beer and then get out of Dodge? Like what did?
Yeah.
Being that you didn't know that was going to happen, what was that like?
He came in and I was like, wow, and he came by and said hi to everybody and shook their hands, and then it just went back to what it was, where. I didn't count up the people, but there must have been at least, 9 or 10. Yeah. And it's just like 2 or 3 or 4 little groups of people talking and you switch around. And I don't know that I talked to him after saying hi to him. I don't know that I talked to him for the rest of the night. I'm pretty sure I didn't last year. So yeah, it just kind of went back to what it was before he showed up.
Have those relationships from media to players, or media to coaches, or media to front office, has that changed, or was it ever any different since you've been working there? I visited with Mark Daniels last week and he talked about the relationships. He said, I don't know that they'd want you to describe them as friendships, but the relationships that he had with Bob Harlan and others was different. Do you notice that? Is that a fair way to look at it, that it's different now than it was 15, 20, 25 years ago?
Probably a little bit. With Ron Wolf, you just call him in the afternoon of any day you want to talk to him. Yeah. And at about somewhere around 5 o'clock or so, his secretary would give him the list of reporters who called, and he would just go down the list and call all of them. And it was really rare when he wouldn't call back. It was pretty rare. Now it's, Gutekunst is hard to get a hold of, and it's a big lockdown on talking to any of I used to talk to all the, several of their scouts. It's a big lockdown on talking to the scouts and the assistant coaches. You used to be able to call them in their office and talk to them. And that doesn't happen anymore. So it's definitely changed. It's changed in that way. And I'm sure I've changed too, where, 30 years ago, I would befriend them, people, befriend players, befriend people. And because I'm a columnist and I have to criticize people, I don't want to get too close with them because I don't want to feel like I'm sticking a knife in their back if I criticize them.
But that part is always interesting. And I think sometimes to revisit this isn't a bad idea. As the columnist, you're different than a beat reporter who is reporting on the game and is supposed to keep the opinions essentially devoid of being part of the game story. Columnists it's all opinion driven. So Jim Polzine does it here. You're doing it with that. but you also then have to be accountable. Maybe that's not the right word, but visible in that locker room. So if a player has been criticized, that you're not in there, so that they can have, if they want to say, hey, can we talk about this? Or how often does that happen?
Yeah, that's definitely accountable is the right word. And that's what you do. If you criticize somebody, you got to show up the next day. I remember, last year or at the end of last season, Tom Silverstein wrote that they should fire Matt LaFleur. And the very next day he showed up out there and asked LaFleur a question. And you have to make yourself available. I learned that very early in my in the business. There was a columnist. I was living in Missouri at the time, and a columnist for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch wrote a critical column about the baseball team. And I was talking to him, and he said he had to go out there. He didn't even have any reason to be out at the ballpark the next day, but he went just so if somebody wanted to complain to him or chew him out, that they had that opportunity to do it. So accountability is the right word. And it's much easier to sit and criticize people when you don't have to the next day look them in the eye.
Sure.
So you gotta, but you have, if you're going to do it, you gotta show up.
Yeah. And that is that's a learned behavior, because it's not what you want to do. I mean, I don't know if that's the way to phrase it. I remember being in the locker room quite a long time ago. I don't remember the younger reporter for the Journal Sentinel, but he must have written something disparaging about an offensive lineman. And then we're doing a little group interview with Josh Sitton. And I think it was Sitton. It doesn't matter who it was, but one of the other offensive linemen. And that reporter walked into the scrum and was holding out his microphone. And the player walked away from the group, said, I'm not going to continue. I'll come back when he leaves. So, I mean, that also happens, right? You can get locked out on certain stuff, maybe more from players, right, than from coaches. I don't know.
Yeah, and a high percentage of the time, it's just temporary. They'll be upset, and it might last for a couple days or a couple weeks, but eventually, they forget, and they get over it. So time kind of heals that. But there are grudges that I've done my own. I've done my own lockdowns, or the stops too. Kabir Baja Biamila, I got so tired of talking, when you ask him anything, he would talk about was his belief in God. Yeah. And so it was just like, there's no reason to talk to this guy anymore. So I never talked to him after about, 20 times of that. It just wasn't worth the time. So I never talked to him again.
Let's go back to what this season is, and then I'll let you get on the run. You've got some other things going on. What would surprise you more? Because I think this is such a level division. I think it's so hard to handicap this division. So what would surprise you more? That the Packers won the division and were a top 4 seed, or finished last in this 4-team division?
Last for sure would surprise me more.
Okay.
The Vikings, I don't know how Kyler Murray is going to work out. He's certainly had his issues. That coach over there seems like he's really good at working with quarterbacks. So maybe he can pull up, a Sam Darnold type reviving for this guy. But I think they have a much better chance of winning the division than finishing last. I mean, everybody has their own opinion, and I don't claim that mine's going to be any better than anybody else's, but that's my take.
And in that regard, then, so if you've got Minnesota pegged as that team, you think it's a fairly equal race with Detroit, Chicago, and Green Bay to be a division winner here? I
do. Chicago had the big loss, losing that safety to they paid the guy Kobe Bryant. That is, they paid him a lot of money, and that's a big blow. Losing now, he's going to be done for the season. It just came out yesterday. Detroit, they're having to pay all these guys
makes a difference.
That's starting to erode their talent a little bit. That's happened to the Packers in the past. So I wonder if they, I think Goff is a hair overrated by people around the league. So I think it's either the Packers or the Bears to win the division. That would be my guess.
And I'll finish on your kicking acumen. Obviously, you've studied it in depth and have a great knowledge of the kicking game. Trey Smack, the rookie draft choice. Kickers are always a conversation because it's the one absolute. You get to measure. Yeah, he was 5 for 6, I think, on family night. You get to measure that. What have you seen from him? And does any of it matter other than games?
I think it does matter, actually. And it's looked a little shaky so far. I think he's hitting about 71%, which, 50 years ago that had made him a star.
Yeah.
But today that's just not even close to good enough. So it's going to be interesting. Gutekunst keeps saying how much he wants to, he says he has trouble having patience with kickers. But he keeps saying he wants to have patience with this guy and that to weather the ups and downs because they like the talent. But he hasn't had a day where he's made all his kicks yet. And I think the practices do matter. They're probably harder than the games because it's windier out on the practice field than it is in the stadium. But he's a lot of scrutiny these next 3 weeks in the preseason games.
All right, Pete. I appreciate you doing this. I'll look forward to seeing you back in the press box. I'm back on the Packers radio network this year, so I'll be in the stadium for all home games, and that just came out earlier this week. So I'll look forward to seeing you in person up on game days.
Sounds good. I look forward to sitting down and having an omelet with you with those noon starts.
Sounds great. Hey, thank you, Pete. Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll look forward to the next time we get a chance to visit.
Okay, Mike. Always good talking with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That guy, we welcome him into the program, Vinny Riccino. I'm going to dive right into it, Vinny. There's a worry factor, and the reason part of this is that the Brewers have created this because they've been Major League Baseball's best team and are Major League Baseball's best team by virtue of their record. So they've only been swept. Yesterday was the third series that they've been swept in. Washington in April, Pittsburgh in that 28-hour 3-game set before the All-Star break, and then the last 3 days in San Diego. And 2 of the games are one-run games, could have gone either way. So the worry factor is there because of that object in the rear view mirror on the north side of Chicago and one of the rare 3-game sweeps that the Brewers have suffered. So this is their own doing for being so damn good for all of the season.
Yeah, no doubt. First, you got me, Mike. I hope you got me. I hope I'm not going to lag anytime. Okay. Yeah, so this is it's definitely time to panic. Everyone should panic around the state. I am a little bit. No,
I'm worried. I said I've been saying this week. I'm worried about this trip. And I said yesterday morning I was worried about a 1-win road trip. That means you got to win a game in LA. That part worries me. I'm going to be honest. I'm not panicking, but I am worried. Is there a difference?
I am worried too. No, I'm just saying that a little tongue in cheek, but because that's what the team cannot do is panic. That's what the team cannot do is start to worry and get out of kind of what Murph has these guys focusing on what they can control. They can't control what the Cubs do. They can't control what anyone else does around the league. And so I think that is a serious thing where Murph definitely needs to continue to message that to the team. And I know the team meeting was about that after they lost yesterday's game. That was a winnable game. They were in the lead in the bottom of the 8th inning. Yeah. Ashby didn't cover in time and they lost. So too many mistakes were magnified in the last series against the Padres. Look, and I don't want to face the Padres in the playoffs right now. I mean, that team with that kind of firepower up and down the lineup and then their bullpen just absolutely, I didn't want to face them last year either.
Yeah.
The Dodgers aren't playing great. Okay. So take advantage. They're not swinging the bats all that well. So take advantage of that, win some of these close games. And I say close because I actually don't expect the Brewers bats really to come alive in this series against the Dodgers. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
They do need to come alive at some point, however. Okay. Yeah. You need Christian Yelich. You need William Contreras to start swinging the bats like they can swing the bats. I mean, you cannot get it done with just Jackson Chourio and Jake Bauers swinging the bats well, and that's kind of what's been happening as of late. They've won 15 games since the All-Star break, Mike. 10 of them have been within 3 runs of those wins.
Yeah.
So they're just not putting up the runs, and it's taxing the bullpen. And that's the reason why Abner Uribe wasn't in the game yesterday. They just did not have him available because of all these close games that they're playing. It's a concern. It's a concern. They're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs anyways if they don't swing the bat.
Yeah.
Swing 100%. The bat's better. So, get out of this funk. 41 games to play, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah.
Try and survive here in LA and see what happens from there.
Yeah. Just to further your run scoring issue, they have lost 10 games since the All-Star break. They've scored 21 runs in the 10 games that they've lost. And that includes a game that they scored 6.
Yeah.
Right? So, so they've scored 15 runs in 9 of those losses. So, yeah, that's an issue. And, okay, I want to get back to the bats, but I had an impassioned discussion / argument with one of my guys that came into Red and White last night. Brent came in. He rode his bike in. I think he wanted to fight. He put the loss squarely on the shoulders of Jake Bauers. He said that play at first is all about Bauers, and I fought him tooth and nail. Finally kicked him out. I said, "Get out of here." I gave him one of these, Vinny. I said, "Red card. Leave the premises." Ashby the pitcher can never, under any circumstance, not win the race to first base on a ground ball to the right side. That was my leverage. I don't know that Bauers, even if he fielded and immediately made the sprint to the bag without assessing the situation, I don't know if he would have beaten him. Well, you played the game. What's the view of that play? What's the inside baseball view of that play?
So it was a couple of steps to Jake Bauers' right. It was a high chopper, fast runner. You, as a first baseman, your job is to secure that ground ball with your glove and flip it to the pitcher. You are expecting him to be there.
Yep.
That's it. That's basically it.
Yeah.
We've seen Jake Bauers at times this year kind of encroach into a play where Bryce Terang can make, and then he should have gotten over to first base.
Yeah.
I don't think this play was one of those. I think this was like literally one step to his right. It was the high chopper. Aaron Ashby has a tendency to not get over in time. And when you watch the replay, he does fall off to third base pretty aggressively. It's a violent delivery. Yeah. It's a big pull off. It's called a head duck, where he ducks his head over to the third base side. It's amazing that he can throw strikes actually with that delivery, but he's been so consistent doing it. So you're just going to let him ride with this. That's how he throws the baseball. Yeah. It's aggressive move towards that third base line. That first step for him has to be super hard and intentful to get over. And it just wasn't. And that's why Jake Cronenworth, who was a fast runner, was able to beat him. And that cost the Brewers the game. You knew that it was going to cost them the game once they tied it. Obviously, you just felt it. That's the thing, though, about this team, Mike, that you felt like they were going to be able to, because after the Gary Sanchez double in the 10th or the 11th, that's like, okay, they fought back from all this adversity, all the momentum on San Diego's side, and yet they still blow that game late. Man, that's a gut punch, and it makes you doubt a little bit. So, but yes, that play 100%, it was on Aaron Ashby. And again, it didn't look like he delayed in getting over, but again, it is that first step. What did he missed it by, a couple hundredths of a second.
Yes.
So he should have been able to get over.
Delayed first step. All right. The other point of contention in the game for many is Terang in the top of the 10th. Nobody out. He is the auto runner at second base and trying to steal third. I don't have a problem. And Murph talked about a post game. Everything is based on numbers. So it's a 1.7 to home plate for
Morahone. Yep.
Morahone, which is a go number, apparently. My problem was, and he's my favorite player, Bryce Terang is. My problem is if you're still in third, you got to commit to going head first. You can't go in feet first on that slide. I don't know. Maybe I'm wet on that, but you can't make that out. So if you're going to go, you have to have the jump to know you can go, and then you've got to commit to going head first. Am I wrong?
Some guys are switching over from the head first to the feet first, just because of injury issues.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, you're able to kind of do the swim move. That's a good take. I don't mind that take, Mike. I think you shut it down if you don't get a great jump. And it was a pitch that he could throw on. So that's kind of the issue with that move right there. If he's safe, then obviously we're talking a different story right here. Yeah. It's such a tough lefty in Morejon, throwing 100 miles per hour. I mean, if the Padres were going to sell, he would have brought back a haul in a trade with another team. But obviously they're not going to sell didn't intend on selling because it's a really good team. So, man, tough. Yeah, that was a tough move. It was kind of. You got to shut it down if you don't get the jump. He didn't get the jump. You got to shut it down.
And the Padres, by the way, with that win, I think they've won 16 of 20, something like that, very close to that. They're now 65 and 57, 16 and 19. They are the number 2 wild card. I mean, before the trade deadline, they were outside of the wild card spots by, I think, 2.5 games. And this hot streak that they're on, regardless of who they're playing, they're +1 in the wild card. Arizona and Philadelphia are tied for the 3rd wild card spot right now in the National League. It's the Cubs, the Padres, and then Arizona and Philadelphia tied with Miami, a 1.5 back. St. Louis, 2.5 back. The other reason that I brought up off the front end that Brewers fans are worried, and I understand the worry because I'm worried, is you can't control what they're doing on the north side, but the Cubs. I've been saying it for weeks. The Cubs have been playing great baseball and gaining no ground. This little mini losing streak for the Brewers, 3-game losing streak, and the Cubs picked up 3 games.
3-game lead now in the Central. This is going to be, we said that this is going to be a dogfight. I mean, the Cubs, we like to make fun of our bigger city brothers down south, but I don't know that they're playing like, not scary little Cubs right now. They're playing a rabid bear in our rearview mirror. And that's kind of what it feels like, just the way that they're scoring runs. They are scoring runs at a prolific rate right now. Their offense is high powered. It really is. You have PCA MVP potential, especially the way that he can play defense out in center field. They retooled a little bit to their starting rotation. Look, maybe some people disagree with my assessment of myself, but I feel like I'm a realist in terms of talking about reality. This team was the best team in baseball and playing like it for a long time. Now I'm worried. They're not playing that well. They're certainly not. They're not going to be able to win. If they're not going to hit, they got to not make any mistakes. They've been making too many mistakes as of late. They get swept by the Padres, and you could point to big mistakes in all 3 of those games they got swept, Mike. That cannot happen in this Dodgers series. Otherwise, they're going to get swept by the Dodgers as well. It just cannot. If you're not going to hit, this is how the Brewers have been able to win all these close games, is that their defense is so buttoned up. Their ability to hit and kind of play winning baseball in terms of getting on base via the walk, great base running, no mistakes, like none in the field, throwing the ball to the right bases, all that, making great plays, making game-saving plays. You saw that from Luis Lara against the Twins in that last game against the Twins. A couple of great plays to save that game. You're going to have to continue. I think I got lost right there. Am I back?
You're back now. I see you. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So they, in order to cover up some of the mistakes, if you are going to make mistakes, you got to hit, and they haven't been. And the hitting with runners in scoring position, they're 220 since the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Tons of strikeouts. Just not. They're trying to do too much.
Yeah.
And I think what you're seeing, Mike, from pitchers is they're starting to make the adjustment. The adjustment against the Milwaukee Brewers offense is this. If you pound the zone, you're going to have a good shot of these guys, getting themselves out, because what has happened this year is that the Brewers have walked at such a high rate, and teams are starting to understand, okay, let's not leave the zone very often against this team.
Right.
Now now the Brewers, what they have to do is make the adjustment back. We have to be a little bit more aggressive. Now, being too patient and being more aggressive, those are two different things, right?
Yeah.
So being a little bit selectively aggressive, and when you get a pitch in your zone, you can't miss it. We've seen William Contreras foul off so many pitches in the zone that look hittable.
Yeah.
He's got to snap out of it somehow, some way. And as a player, you just do get to a point where it's like, I'm just going to snap out of it. I'm going to start barreling up the baseball and stop thinking about all the external stuff. Stop tinkering with my swing and just barrel up the ball.
Yeah.
So as soon as he does that, I think this team can start turning things around. Yelich as well. Yelich, that home run that he hit in the first game of the series, was it first or second game of the series?
Yeah.
First pitch, that's what it looked like. I'm done messing around. I'm going to jump on something that I see early.
Yeah.
I think you do that more often, then all of a sudden pitchers will start nibbling again. But right now, pitchers are attacking this lineup, and that's the fact that they're not barreling up balls very often right now is the reason why pitchers are mowing down the Milwaukee Brewers offense.
And Contreras, to me, is the biggest mystery. Yelich is less of a mystery. I think there's an age component there that's involved. But Contreras, just think of this, and I'm sure you know these things, but let me just share this with our viewers. At the end of June, William Contreras was hitting .302 and slugging .843. In the month of July, he hit 186 and slugged .535. And in the month of August, he's hitting 128 and slugging .507. Vinny, it happens. But this one's a mystery because by all rights, as far as we know, he's healthy. Last year, he was playing with a broken finger all season long. This year, he's healthy. He's had more time off than he did a year ago. I think that they're forcing some of that. But he's not only lost it a little bit, he's lost all of it. He's over a 300 hitter at the end of June in a big sample set of March, April, May, end of June, over 300. Slugging over 800. How? What do you see?
The fall. So you were saying slugging, you meant OPS.
OPS.
Those are OPS numbers. But the fall off is kind of alarming because, you thought, okay, this is William Contreras. He's back. He's that aircraft carrier. He's that guy that can lead the pitching staff. And all of a sudden he's going to be able to drive in runs and be productive and get on base and do everything offensively. Because he's that rare combination when right, where he's not gonna chase very often. He's not gonna swing and miss very often. It's a rare combination then to also slug, right? To also drive the ball out of the ballpark and hit for extra base hits. What do I see is I see a guy that's just he tinkers a lot. He's a guy, you see him, Mike. He's always working, and that's great. Like what makes him great sometimes with players can also make you struggle at times. So he's just a relentless worker. And Murph has referenced this a bunch with William too, that he's actually not that of a naturally, what is the word? Confident, I guess is the word, like type of a player.
We've heard Murph try to give, I wish he was more confident and believed in himself more. So he is a doubter, right? A self-doubter.
He's a self-doubter, and that's why he works so darn hard. That's why he is one of the hardest workers I think I've ever seen, because he works not only on his offense all the time, but he works continuously on his defense. He's gotten so much better defensively. So, yes, hard work works, but at the same time, you have to back off at times in this game where all of a sudden you're just going to say, again, like, okay, I'm just going to snap out of this funk that I'm in. It really does happen like that. Your brain, not that you consciously think this way, but you struggle for so long and you just miss so many pitches that there is those ebbs and flows. And then when it is ebbing, then all of a sudden you start to realize, wait a minute, this is crazy. This is the same game that I've been playing. I'm just going to go ahead and compete. And then all of a sudden you barrel up 3 or 4 baseballs in a game. And then all of a sudden, okay, that's what it feels like. And then you just start to compete and you're back. I don't know why, Mike, that it's not back yet for William. Yeah. I thought it was going to be after that walk-off home run that he hit where he tossed the bat up 40 feet in the air against the Marlins. And it just hasn't. He just continually trying to find something. He hasn't yet. And the Brewers, Mike, the Brewers need it. If they don't get it from him, and again, he can't think this way. We can talk this way, of course. If they don't get it, they won't miss the playoffs, but they're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs without it.
Yeah, they have to have offense. And part of this, you know, we talked about this all summer long. The Brewers were 5th in Major League Baseball in runs scored, but that has gone away. They have not scored runs at that level, at that run since the beginning of July. Not just since the All-Star break, but from the beginning of July to now. Not a small sample set. We're talking about 40-ish games, a quarter of the season. The bats have gone quiet. And in a great contributor to that is that Contreras hadn't hit anything. Yelich hadn't hit anything. And until the last 10 days, Chourio went the bulk of that time, maybe 30 of those 40 games without providing anything either. Those are 3 of your top 5 hitters in your normal everyday lineup. Turang and Bowers have been steady eddies. They've been your best hitters throughout the year. Chourio, I think, is your best hitter when he's got it going. But this is true for every team in baseball. In your top 5 in your order, you got to have 2 guys hitting at all times, and it helps to have 3. And you can't have 3 of them in the tank. Like, not just not hitting, but not hitting. And that's what they've gone through since the start of July.
This is the reason why the Brewers have been good offensively for a bulk of the season, a quarter of the season. You're right. So for the other bulk of the season before that, the reason why they are good is because they didn't have any auto outs in their lineup.
Yep.
Okay. It's all works together. Think about when you don't have an auto out in your lineup, then all of a sudden pitchers, think about what a pitcher has to go through. An opposing pitcher has to go through all kinds of stress, almost every single pitch. And the catcher too, trying to call a game and trying to navigate a lineup. When all of a sudden you have 1 through 9, they don't all have to be raking, but they can't be zeros. Right now there are zeros in the lineup for the Milwaukee Brewers. And so what that does, and again, if it's like, okay, William Contreras, guys, toeing the rubber against the William Contreras, getting the sign, okay, boom, executing a pitch. And all I have to do as a pitcher and a catcher, I have to call the right pitch, and then this guy on the mound knows all I got to do is execute right here, and I got an out. That's a very calming feel. And once you get pitchers on the other side, we've seen this on the Brewers side of things. Once you get pitchers on the other side thinking, all right, I am now into my rhythm of this game, and now I'm going to execute at a very high level. I'm in that zone. I'm focused. I'm feeling it. And that's how they have mowed down the Brewers line. I mean, look, Casey Mize, you asked me if I would want to acquire Casey Mize. The answer is no. The guy was flopping in 93-mile-per-hour sinkers, and he mowed down the Brewers lineup. So it's like that. This team is in a funk. You get guys on the other side towing the rubber against this team that realize, all right, this is not the same team I faced earlier on in the season when they were scoring runs. I'm just going to go ahead and execute my stuff, and I am going to have a walk in the park. That's what it feels like when you're watching this team right now. How do you get out of it? You got to get these guys swinging the bats. You got to get more pressure on opposing pitchers. You got to take advantage early as well. So recently, you've felt like, okay, this team is going to put up some runs tonight. Early on in games, they've let pitchers off of the hook too often, and then they've settled in, and then they've mowed down the lineup. That's what I'm seeing. You got to turn it around somehow.
And a ton of strikeouts too, right? I mean, that has been a theme of late. They were not a big strikeout team for the first 2/3 of this season, but they certainly have been lately, haven't they?
Well, I've been looking at, you're right. I needed to look back at the numbers from the beginning of July, but since the All-Star break, 24% strikeout rate. That is too high. I mean, this team doesn't strike out at that kind of rate. They're still walking at a nice clip, but again, too many strikeouts. I think it's and they're swinging and missing at pitches like in the zone. Like, usually we've seen this team just kind of get into that fighting mentality with 2 strikes and just kind of be able to put the ball in play. But again, I think that they know that pitchers know that they're going to be attacked in the zone. And so now that's a little bit of a subtle pressure that they, okay, so now as a group, these guys are attacking us in the zone. We better barrel up balls. Anytime you say we gotta or we better do this, it just doesn't work in this game. You got to let the game come to you a little bit, and you got to just let it happen. Super subtle mental adjustments that this team needs to make. And again, it's hard to make these adjustments when you see that lead, that huge lead in the NL Central dwindle down. That's why Murph has that meeting yesterday, is to make sure that they're not focused on that, but you're not human if you don't see those Cubs coming. You're just not. And they know that they're not swinging the bats. They know that they're playing poorly. They know that they're making mistakes. And so they know all of this. And again, once that's in the back of your mind, you start to put a little bit extra pressure on yourself to be perfect. And that's when you make more mistakes. So I don't know how it's going to get turned around. It's going to get turned around with some W's and some momentum and some, swinging the bats and putting up some runs.
I'm trying to make notes while you're speaking. I went back to May when the Brewers were 12 games over 500 in the month of May. They were 19-7. In the month of May, Terang's, these are all OPS numbers. Terang 717, league average about 700. Contreras 723, Churio 721, Bowers 922, Yelich 710. All 5 of your, what I would call your key hitters in your lineup, had an OPS above 700 in the month of May. I mean, Yelich is down at 500, Contreras at 500. I'm talking about in August, July and August for that matter. Even Terang, somebody that has been so steady, he's 621 in this month. So when you explain lack of run scoring, OPS is really kind of a great amalgamation of statistics that give you a sense of what hitters are doing. Let me get you a few questions from our comment line. James wants to know, if you had one player to bring up from the minors, who would it be? He says, thanks in advance for the answer. And is that the answer? Is there some? I don't think it is. What do you think?
Well, I will say, remember when Jake Bowers went down for a couple of days with that abdominal pain after sliding into home, it was that against the Pirates. So I thought if Jake Bowers is going to be out for an extended period of time, that you bring up Blake Burke. Now some people would think, okay, well, what about Andrew Fisher? I would say Blake Burke, because you hear that this guy is on another level in terms of being an intense competitor. He's a Brewers guy. Not taking that away from Andrew Fisher. Heard good things about him as well in terms of his competitiveness. But this guy, he's like the leader in the Biloxi clubhouse. He has 25 stolen bases. He looks like Mark Tauscher, like in terms of, in terms of his body. Like he looks like an athletic offensive. Right.
Come on back, Vinny. Come on back.
Hello. Sorry.
There he is.
Yep.
There he is.
So he just got called up to Nashville.
Yeah.
I think that this might be in the back of their plans to call this kid up eventually this season, actually, because he does get called up to Nashville right here. He seems like he is ready. I think they're going to find out what he can give in AAA and see if he continues this hot streak. Maybe that'll shake things up. Yeah. And again, because I think it's the right person. He's got the talent. He's going to be the first baseman of the future. And why not? Just to shake things up and to see if you can get some more offense. And maybe he is the guy that's going to spark things, because he checks a lot of boxes, Mike. You talk about a guy that just quality at bat after quality at bat, but then also super talented, short, compact swing that hits bombs. This guy's going to be a good one. I'm very excited for him, but maybe he's the answer. We'll see. That's a great question. That is a great question. Where he would play right now, especially with Andrew Vaughn and Jake Bowers kind of manning.
Come on back.
Hello. Sorry.
There he is.
I'm back.
Okay, so let me. This is a long message from David. Essentially, he's talking about is there something wrong with Contreras? By the way, in this long note that David sends in, he says that Yelich has been even worse than Contreras. No, he hasn't. Listen, I've dug through the numbers. Contreras has bottomed out, and that bottoming out is even more statistically driven than Yelich. Not by a lot, but when people go, Yelich has been their worst hitter. I hate that this is the truth, but it's really been William. Is there a chance that I think we covered this, but you don't think this is an ailment issue? You don't think that there's something there?
I don't think so. I would have heard.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave that alone. Vinny will be back here in a second. I think it'll buffer. Let me finish on a couple of notes. One, you talked about Murph having a meeting yesterday. What do you end up hearing about that? And then how often? I think people think like it's a college game and the coaches meet with players as a team in the clubhouse after every game. It just doesn't happen very often. Well, give us a little insight on a manager having a meeting with their players after a game.
All right. Hopefully I don't pause out here, but yeah. So Murph, what he does, he's just got a tremendous feel for when to have these meetings. Now, if it's any other manager, I think players are going to start to fall on deaf ears. Yeah. I really do. He calls a lot of these when the team kind of needs it. And the message to the team, Mike, when these happen is let's continue to not focus on the external things that are going on around us. And that's all that they can do. I don't think it's a lot of rah-rah, like, okay, we got to swing the bats better. I think he challenges certain guys when they need to be challenged, but then at the same time, he gets these guys to understand, play our game. That's all we can do, because the more pressure we put on ourselves, the worse we actually are going to play. The makeup of the team, we have to play our game, which is consistent quality at bats up and down the lineup, and then great defense behind us. It's win every single pitch. It's all the kind of like messaging that Murph has given this team already, but the little tiny reminders to remind the team that if we do that, we're going to be fine. You don't have to do more than you're capable of doing. You don't have to do any more than what, win that pitch tonight. Yeah. And that is an important message to hear. Again, I think other managers trying to hold these meetings, I think guys will start to turn it off, but not with Murph. He's got that special ability to have these meetings land on guys and land for the team. And so there was a meeting last night. Let's see how it plays out tonight. I don't think we judge how the meeting plays out based on a win or a loss tonight in this series. I think you judge it on how this team plays tonight. Do they hit a bunch of balls right on the screws, but right at guys, and then they come up short in the game? Or are they swinging and missing a ton in zone? Yeah. Are they chasing outside the zone? Like, I think that's kind of what you focus on and look at. And then also, the defense got to clean that up. It's uncharacteristic the way they played in San Diego. Clean that up and just play, free. Play free, not mistake free, but just play free. I think that's going to be the key.
And most of that in the San Diego series defensively, you had Hamilton botching a tailor-made, and that was just a mental error. Like he lost his focus. There was no hop there. It's an in-between. It's not an in-between. It was right up, knee high and coming down to, that's where you play it. He made one of those. G1 Bay has had a couple. Joey had a bad throw on a spin early in the game yesterday. Ashby not getting to the bag. Lara made two incredible plays. I think the throw is great. Sanchez being behind the plate, I think he just maybe judged that in order to get to it, he was going to have to be behind the plate and jump. As it turns out, I think he could have been on the plate and reached up. Maybe he gets him, maybe he doesn't, but Lara's catch in the outfield was brilliant. Mitchell's catch laying out because the game ends on that play in the earlier. So they still have those in them. That's who they are, I think, at their core, and the others are somewhat injury driven. Let me ask you a Lara question. We talk about this a lot, but I think it's hitting him now. He had early success. The league finds a hole. They adjust to it. Now he's got to adjust back at the plate, right? That's what we're seeing.
That's what we're seeing. They're pounding him inside, and even with 2 strikes, he's like taking very hittable pitches. And so there's a little bit of an issue with him maybe thinking a little bit too much up there.
Yep.
Trying too hard, all these same cliches. So, it wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden, I'm just trying to think through this roster construction. Maybe a JB, a Bowers plays more right. You have, and then you have Burke come up and play first. Maybe I think that might be in their plans. I haven't heard anything, but yeah, you love Lara. Wow, what brilliant defensive plays that he has been making. And then what a throw last night. Or yesterday.
That's 95 miles an hour off a catch from the outfield.
Yeah. And it just maybe a hair too high. And man, he can really pick it, or he can really play defense. He can really go.
Come on back.
He's not going to. I'm back. He's not going to continue to get every opportunity to play Mike if he's not swinging the bat. So hopefully that happens sooner than later.
Last quick question, and this is just an inside baseball. This is more me than anybody. The Terang steal, is it a called steal? Is it the player's decision? When Lockridge tried to steal second base against Mason Miller earlier in the series with Yelich at the plate, is that a steal sign given? Is it the player's read? We want you to go if you get the read. Just give us a little detail on that.
We want you to go if you get the jump.
Okay.
That's what it was. So Lockridge with Miller, I think that's the right play. I mean, what are hitters hitting against Mason Miller? 0, Right. And then in fact, I would have even tried to steal third if you. Mike, I'm back. So I'm going to fix this issue for next week. Sorry about it, buddy. But I think, and then with Bryce, it's a green light. That's how they do it. It's a green light if you can go, and then they put on the stop sign as well. But that's.
And I bring in my guy right here. Can I apologize to you out of the gate? Would you accept an apology as we get started, Billy?
Only if I deserve it. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I apologize for asking you to do this on 2.5 hours sleep, and then probably nap time for Bill going home after the morning show, and I am killing your nap window.
Well, actually, all you interrupted was a ruckus game of baseball that was happening in the driveway while one of the youngsters naps, and we ferociously wait for the other demon. I mean, beautiful young man to potentially fall asleep later on today. Then we might be able to. But I've enlisted the help of Grandma and Grandpa, so we're all set in stone. You're all good, brother. Yeah. This is why we do it, right? For the days after the excitement, and that was. That win for the Brewers last night gave a lot of wind in the sails to the postgame show. I'll tell you that much. That ending right in the same window was a beautiful one to be able to witness.
Yeah, where did that happen in the show arc? Because what time did Packers OT end for you guys last night? Midnight?
So we wrapped up at midnight. Game ended, maybe 12:05, and so we watched in the final 2 segments. Where you're really starting to. You got to dig down deep, right? This is spring football practice, maybe practice number 18 at that point. You're digging deep to be able to finish that last wind sprint. And luckily that started the small market rally of the 9th inning when those trumpets sounded. And that's about as energized as you can be for a regular season win, ain't it?
Yeah, I think so. I was listening to some reaction to this game this morning, and somebody had asked somebody on another show on another network, where would you rate that win? This is after 8:00, Billy, because, on the drive up from Madison to Minocqua this morning on my way to Bessemer, Michigan.
Beautiful.
And I wasn't invited to drop in at the LePay residence. He's never given me the address.
You got to look for the coordinates on that one. That's true.
He's giving you the address. He don't want me stopping by.
Well, he offered the keys, but the weekend didn't match up. Sorry, I apologize.
So on the way up, after you guys finished at 8:00, I listened to somebody else, and one of the questions was on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank the Brewers' win last night? And whoever answered it said like 6.5. Dude, that's an 8.5, 9. I mean, I get it. Playoffs are different. Cubs series coming up, starting with the 7 games in 10 days, beginning on August 31st. There will be some critical moments there, but from a needed standpoint, from a dramatic standpoint, that's an 8.5, 9 on the scale. What the Brewers did last night, because it was over. They had given up another lead and they were done.
So I have done some of the CPR training, right? You have to be CPR certified to coach high school sports. You were putting the paddles and charging them bad boys up after the William Contreras strikeout. Although that one you probably could have chalked up. You knew that one was most likely happening if you watched the last 6 weeks of Brewers baseball. But for where they were at, Mike, I contended it earlier this morning, and I would argue it firmly. That game could have happened against 28 other teams.
Yeah.
Would have been maybe a conversation for a 6.5, 7. I still think it's different because you lost 3 straight to a red-hot Padres team. Who, when you look at the overall payroll, the discrepancy, the talent on that one, lineup up and down, that's as good pound for pound of a baseball team as there is in the National League. They struggled for 2.5 months, and their bullpen's great. You caught them at the worst possible time at the end of your second longest stretch of games, and now you play L.A., and you win that game, you steal it away, and you can now start counting, I need a Gasser or Henderson dub against a future Hall of Famer with Ms. Sandwich there on Saturday to, Mike, not only potentially have a chance to win the series, but you're looking at they took 2 or 3 at your place. You win 3 or 4. You then steal another half game in the standings for a race for a bye. And any possibility that you can strain that Dodger team anymore, you force them into a 3-game set. You have those games 6 and 7 at home. It was a massive, massive win last night because of who it was against.
Yeah, and because the Cubs got hammer squashed in D.C. yesterday, the lead in the division goes back to 4 games. The lead in the National League for best record is a game and a half over Atlanta, who didn't play, and it's back up to 2 games over the Dodgers. Had the Dodgers won the game last night, they would have been tied with the Brewers for the best record in the National League. You want to be in that position. I was talking to Vinny. You mentioned the Padres. Vinny was on the show yesterday, and he said, and I wholeheartedly agree, you want nothing to do with this Padres team in October. With their bullpen and Mason Miller, who you cannot hit as their lockdown finisher, and what they do to lead into him. We love who the Brewers are with Ashby, Uribe, and McGill. The Padres are every bit of that in the back end of their pen, and that offensive lineup, I fear Jake Cronenworth. Like I woke up in a sweat last night thinking of Cronenworth at the plate, and we didn't play the Padres last night. And he's not even close to their best hitter. Tatis, who couldn't do anything in April and May and even half of June, now he's ridiculous. Machado is always scary, even running up first base. Ask Jesus Aguilar. Their lineup is frighteningly good, and they're a hot team. So losing all 3 of those, I get it. I don't want any touch of the Padres right now.
No, and you see these teams each and every year, right? Now, granted, the ones that you remember are the ones that make it on a deep run. Mets to the NLCS and beating the Brewers when you're outside of Section 113, maybe a little prematurely. But, like, as you sit there and try to eye it up, the 2019 Washington Nationals, they were 15 games under 500, Mike, in the middle of May. Right. Yeah. And then they are the best team in baseball for the next 4.5 months. And they upset a team that won 109 games in LA in the DS and go to the World Series. Yeah. Brewers had them dead to rights. So when you have a chance to finish a team in the postseason, you have to be able to. And I thought that was the other part of last night. They were able to win it the way they have to win a playoff game, right? The Dodgers are going to get a Max Muncy pinch hit 3-run shot, because why not? Why wouldn't we do that in the middle of the 6th inning? But the Brewers are going to have to find a way against somebody's bullpen, one that's as highly compensated at 3 years, $69 million as Edwin Diaz is. you're going to have to string together base hits. I don't know that you can for sure do that in October, but last night was a glimpse into them being able to do it. And case in point, you got to learn how to win games this year, and I think that's exactly how they're going to have to in the postseason. So I thought that was good to be able to put on tape.
I have a love-hate relationship with your memory that you remembered Section 113. I hate that. I love and am jealous of your memory. I don't remember yesterday, and you still remember that I went to 113 before Pete Alonso homered. Any media that wanted to be on the field.
And you know what? And you deserve to be there, and you will be there one of these years. But the funniest part is, it's not very funny for you, but I chuckled at it. The Uke doc, phenomenal piece. I saw it a week ago, and they have the shot, right? They have the shot into the radio booth, and it's one of the most dramatic and somber visuals as a Brewer fan, because you literally see Bob Uecker age like 10 years in a moment as that hits. The bad thing is, in the sick, twisted mind, all I was wondering is who has the security footage of Mike Heller standing outside on 113, because I wanted to see if that same reaction, if I saw your shoulders go a full 1.5 inches down as you turned around and went right back to that low elevator.
For those who don't know, the media reps from the Brewers, if you're going to go down to the field to get on-field celebration media, you have to go with them to Section 113 in the 9th inning. So I left my media seat to go there. And then I don't need to repaint the picture, but before the Devin Williams pitch to Alonso lands in the bleachers for the home run, I had already turned and walked through an empty concourse to go back up the stairs to the press box. And I'm cussing myself out the whole time. And I got nothing to do with it. But in my head, that was a jinx. Why did I go? Why did I leave? And you know, the thing that does, Billy, is you say, well, one day you're going to have that opportunity to be on the field. Not unless they lead 9-1 in the 9th inning. Will I ever leave that press box spot to go? So
that ruined you. Don't let it. It only what doesn't kill you.
But
only makes you stronger.
You know that if it's less than a 6-run lead, I'm not going to leave my press box seat if that scenario ever plays itself out again. Ever.
And I totally understand it, but I would just caution. Think about the Chicago. Now, again, I don't like to think of this memory because it was a very, very painful one, as I had a whole college house full of Cub fans in my living room, probably like 15, 20 people on like a Tuesday night. Who parties on a Tuesday night in college? So I'm sitting up in my room with like 2 other people that would not look at anybody in a Cub shirt. We're the only ones cheering for the Cleveland Indians on that night when they win the World Series. Think about those Cub reporters that thought they're going to go down in the bottom of the 8th inning when all of a sudden Rajay Davis changes that entire script. See, Mike, but it came back and they had the victorious moment. You're going to have that moment, but you got to think about that painful stuff to be able to make it that much sweeter.
Yeah. So one other note on the Brewers before I switch over to Trey Smack conversation. I visited with, I talked to Vinny, just texted back and forth on the drive up this morning. Asked him about this whole Bryce Terang thing is a little nervy because, and I didn't talk to Vinny about this part, but if he was checked out and now he's getting a second opinion, what's the second opinion for? Or what are they not telling us? To me, the second opinion means, even though they didn't tell us, that the first opinion is not what they're telling us. Because otherwise, why are you getting a second view on this? So I'm worried about Bryce Terang. If you're worried about Bryce Terang and if he's missing any significant time, one of the things Vinny said is he doesn't think they'll go to Jesus Madej. He doesn't think that's going to happen. But what he did suggest is they could go real makeshift here and bring up Blake Burke and have Vaughn play third base, Burke at first base, and Bauer is going to be in one of those outfield spots. He'll be your pretty much everyday right fielder, and your middle of the infield would be Ortiz and Hamilton. Terang is such a significant piece to what they're doing, but I don't love the idea that they told us he's day to day, might even play this weekend, but he's getting a second opinion. What?
Yeah, and there's you're spot on, right? Your spidey senses tingling are in the right direction. When you get the second opinion, you either want to validate what somebody has told you in the positive variety, right? You're like, okay, it doesn't feel good, but they're telling me I'm going to be okay. I'll see you guys in 3 days. But Mike McCarthy also said that he's never met a quarterback that didn't want to play in the preseason.
Yeah.
So we get lied to into microphones, right? When Pat Murphy goes, "Oh yeah, you definitely could have played. Maybe could have played this weekend. Who knows? Maybe you could play tomorrow. Yeah, maybe I could win the lottery coming up tonight.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
That would be great."
I do struggle to think, Mike, that it's positive news and that it doesn't include him being shut down for a significant period of time.
Yeah.
There's so many different things in the knee that can be aided with 4 to 6 weeks off, lining you up to maybe get a week's worth of at-bats at American Family Field and maybe be ready to play in the postseason. That's a tough thing to ask. That's a tall order. They had to do it with one of their all-stars a year ago in Trevor McGill, and he ended up being really effective. Now, an arm issue for a pitcher is something in there. I love the Madej idea simply because I love parallels. I love being able to draw beautiful pulls to what would the 2026 Brewers be linked to, Mike, in baseball history if they're rattling off 4 consecutive division titles and not being able to go to the World Series? Who would that remind you of in baseball history?
In baseball history, the Atlanta Braves, for one.
And August 15th, 1996, 30 years ago tomorrow, a 19-year-old phenom who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame made his debut and then ended up playing into the LCS and into the World Series in Andrew Jones. I'm not saying Jesus Madej is going to be Andrew Jones. What I'm saying is you don't allow that story to happen if you don't go for the lottery ticket. You could 1,000% continue to go Andrew Vaughn over at third base, and maybe that would work. Maybe it would be sweet. But I think the biggest home run hit that you could get is he comes in and he is what you dream of that player being. And does it need to be you give him 6 weeks to figure it out in the middle of a pennant race? No. But, Mike, I think if you give it a week and a half and see if it happens, you're not breaking the young man's confidence if he's unable to hit big league pitching in the middle of an August pennant race. But you sure open yourself up for the greatest acquisition any team could have gotten if he walks up and he's already a serviceable, if not better than serviceable, big league player. I think the lottery ticket there is hard to not try to pass up and at least see if it works.
You are 5 days away from, in theory, getting Cooper Pratt back active. It's just the 10-day IL for him, so it's not. Let's see what this Terang deal is. But Spidey senses
going to third base. Any chance?
What's that?
Frelick to third base. Frelick to third base. Have any chance for you with this extended rehab thought? Do they dust that theory off? Maybe,
but it depends on what that shoulder is, because then at third base you're making a lot of throws, not 3 throws a game or 1 significant throw a game, and sometimes not. Then you're making, that's a strong throw from third. Maybe. Listen, right now Vaughn is going to play a fair amount of third base because you want Bowers in that lineup. You want both bats in your lineup every day, and you have to consider what you're not getting from Contreras, because what you're not getting from Contreras, I mean, these are alarming numbers. Not, let's get this right. He's 5 for 44 in August. That's a 114 batting average. 5 hits in 44 at bats, and many times he's looking totally lost. Not hitting into, he hit into 1 bad luck last night. He hit 186 in July. So we're talking about a quarter of the season that he's been completely lost. So you have to have Bowers in there. You have to have Vaughn in there. So that's why Vaughn's playing some third base. Luis Lara has been, the league adjusted to a hole that they found in the swing. He's got to adjust back. Cooper Pratt was actually pretty good. There's a lot of moving parts here. But Vinny's in on Burke. Burke has the possibility to come up and play first base, and Bowers in right field and Vaughn at third.
They're definitely, again, maybe I'm just reading too much into it. You see Braylon Payne getting brought up from Biloxi. You think that they're doing, or to Biloxi, you think that they're doing some moving and shaking. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're all independent of each other. But I would say it very cleanly that they need something. They need some kind of shot in the arm. Yeah. However, I mean, you're right in a spot where if there's any human being that has proven his value in being able to take the shit. Sorry, I apologize. Am I allowed to say that on here?
You're good. It's a podcast. It's a podcast, not radio.
To take it for everybody else.
Yeah.
Man, William Contreras needs to send Christian Yelich an edible arrangement or something at the end of this year, because there has been no smoke brought towards Wild Bill. And I mean, you do the Churio numbers in July. It's stunning that they ended up 16-10 in the month, because two of their most important guys down significantly offensively.
It's not possible that team was 6 games over 500 in July with Contreras, Yelich, and Churio numbers. I mean, you want to talk about magic like the Bears had throughout the season last year. What the Brewers did in July with 3 of your top hitters doing nothing in the month, extraordinary pitching. All right, let me flip the script over here to talk Packers. If you want to have the glass half empty, last night you go, oh my God, the quarterback rating for Pittsburgh's 3 quarterbacks that played in the game was almost 125. So there is a reason to be worried about the secondary. I don't know, Billy. You're at camp every day. What do you see? Should people be? We are already worried about what they were going to be in the secondary with Deshaun Nixon and others. What do you think?
I'm not going to worry myself too much about how Drew Aller looked in the back end. He looked phenomenal. But now if I'm also in Pittsburgh, this is the duality of man in beautiful August football. If I'm in Pittsburgh doing sports talk radio, it's 6 to midnight today. We may have just found our next guy, right? We just took 8 to 8, 2 years of Rodgers into 16 Drew Aller, played at Penn State. He's going to come in and be awesome. And you can sell that, I think, as a little bit of hope stock if you end up keeping him. But he's throwing against a guy that has a double 28 number, right? With a kicker. He ain't getting cut. So there's you have to look at who it's against as a part of it. That being said, the highlight that Keyshawn Nixon and Catano Ladapo put on tape of them trying to tackle the young man down the sideline does not engender a whole lot of confidence. The play that I would point to in the secondary that should give you some happiness and some hope and some belief is what you saw number 2 Brandon Cisse do on
his tackle in the open field.
Mike, that's as good as it gets. It's one-on-one. It's mano-a-mano. It's you or the end zone, and somebody's doing a dance. And granted, Lou Nichols is a former 7th-round pick, right? Yeah. It's not Saquon Barkley that he's going up against in the corner. But that's a big-time play to be able to showcase and put on tape and validate why they drafted him, right? Not only because of his coverage ability, he was the best tackling defensive back in the SEC last year. Best tackling percentage of corners in the SEC. That's one of the things they liked about him. You saw that physicality. And they didn't have Javon Bullard last night. That's still one of their missing pieces and secret weapons in that secondary, because it allows McKinney and Williams to be themselves over the top, I think.
And I listened to you, and I saw what you saw on the Keyshawn Nixon, the tackle that everybody's going to point to and put that on their poster board. It's not going to be a very easy tackle just based on where Oladipo is on the play. It's not Nixon's best.
Tabletopped like you on the Appleton North Park, the streets right there in the playground.
Yes.
When somebody goes up behind you and goes on all fours, and somebody comes over and pushes you over the top. Yeah, that's a tough way to be able to make a living. We did a decent amount of that. He's in a tough area for that one. So I'm glad you saw the same thing I did.
Yeah, I saw that as you did, but I knew. I mean, he's a lightning rod. So as soon as anything happens with Keyshawn Nixon on the field that isn't favorable, they're going to all point to him, right? I mean, he's going to be that guy. He's going to have to accept it, because what he has to do this year is earn a contract. It might not be with Green Bay. It could be with anybody, but he's going to have to play at a level where he gets paid next year. He has to know it. So my expectation is that he'll be better than advertised, and the fan base will still pick out the negatives. But he's going to have to find his way to get to a deal next year. The other story last night, you played some starters for a series on offense, and then Trey Smack, I get it. It's a preseason game, but he's 4 for 4, and 2 were from 58 with plenty of distance to spare. I know it's 3 for 3 in the books, but at least for a night, if there were critics and people wondering, he answered those critics and gives you the opportunity to kick for range, right? Because when they brought McManus in, they knew that the issue would be, we're not kicking anything over 50 yards because I don't know that he's got it. Well, Trey Smack's got some leg on him. And at least for a night in a game that doesn't matter, he was the best kicker.
Yeah, in a tough spot to kick. That's not an easy location to do. And the range that field goal kickers and teams are looking for at that position, Mike, you hit it on the head.
Yeah.
Brandon Aubrey's broken the code, right?
Yeah.
And he's now changed the rubric where you start thinking, we got to see if we can stretch towards 60. And it looked like he got a little bit more leg in there as well. He's been too up and down during practices for it not to be a story, right? It's very understandable why people are tracking it. I also do think we've been scarred a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You just watch somebody miss their final 3 kicks as a Packer and bounce you out against your arch rival, and you've had to hear about it from those sons of guns for the last 6 months. Understandable why they're paying.
Yeah.
For the last 5 years, you had a rookie kicker. I'm not going to say they've 1,000% found their guy. I love the little cut of his jib. I thought the celebration after the one right before the half, Mike.
Yeah, he was pretty fired up.
The veins in the neck. He's fired up. He's enjoying it. The boys are going to like that. But in all reality, it's going to matter what happens in the next game. Because as he said, I'm on to Denver. I can't rest on anything because the only thing that's important is the next kick. Ask Tyler Loop. He was one of the best kickers in football a year ago. The last kick he had with the Baltimore Ravens goes wide right. And whoops. Season's over. What are we going to do here in Pittsburgh? So it's all about your next one. But when the head coach channels his inner Allen Iverson and says, we're talking about practice, he had to put a couple through the uprights. He did the job last night. Yeah.
Anything to keep an eye on as we roll forward into week 2? You think we'll see some starters again next week in Denver?
I don't. I just don't know that it makes a ton of sense. But, Mike, here's the thing. I can talk myself into both sides. In a world that all you're doing is manufacturing and trying to simulate something in the regular season, they play 2 Thursday nights, a Wednesday and a bye, a Friday night or a Thursday night on Christmas. They got a weird schedule. Not a bad thing to simulate what a short week would be. Get ready for a game on Friday and then be ready to go at the joint practice on Wednesday.
Joint practice. Yeah.
But it lines up for 2 days of work. The game on this yesterday, joint practice on that Wednesday. And then they get ready for Minnesota. So I would bet the under, but I hope they do for the post game.
It is a Bourbon Friday. So I am going to finish my portion of the show here after I cut you back to the driveway baseball game. So I'm going to finish with a double barrel bird shot from Northern Waters Distillery, which is up here in the Northwoods. So I just wanted to let you know, because you and I have had bourbon together, but you're a shooter. You're a shot taker.
Yeah. So that would be
Not
mine because it says that you should shoot it. It says bird shot.
Bird
so
shot.
Mike Keller's going to do a shot of the bird shot right here on I Love Mondays on a Friday.
And I'm going to enjoy this. And by the way, the reason the show got its name is for days like this. This is an I Love Mondays kind of a day, right? We had so much to talk about with the Brewers last night and the Packers. It felt like a Monday. We're doing kicks to the balls and whatever. What is that?
I fired a couple of them up. Yeah, I had to fire one or two of them up
because it felt like a Monday for you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it felt like today with the short turnaround, but you know what, Mike? It was freaking fun. It was fun, and thank God the Brewers gave us some wind in the sails and some caffeine.
Well, I was with you the whole show. That never happens because I don't wake up at 5 or 4:45 to listen to your whole show. I heard the whole show on our drive up. And it's a 3-hour drive.
Well, I appreciate it. That's very, very nice of you to say, and your check is in the mail. Thank you.
All right. Hey, thank you, Billy. I'll let you run. Enjoy the weekend. Appreciate you doing this.
Cheers. Enjoy the North Woods. When I think North Woods and outdoorsman, I think of Mike Heller. So I can only imagine the country club out north activities that we got set up here for Camp Heller.
Yeah,
a lot of beautiful whitewater rafting and tubing, I can assume. Yes. Have a good one.
Oh, yeah, you're on to me. You got me figured out. Thanks, Billy.